let's look at an example from a form of art that is more visual in its style of delivery to the audience. The Spanish language TV series La Casa De Papel, or perhaps more famously known by its English dubbed version made famous by the streaming site Netflix, Money Heist. Good day, good people. If this is your first time joining us on the channel, welcome. If you're back from a previous video, thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. Today, we've got something that's somewhat of an unconventional take on an expression that's often been used in the English-speaking world, that art is a metaphor for life. But we're not going to be discussing paintings and the like of those, although they do speak volumes, from Van Gogh to the work of Da Vinci. Today, however, we look at some modern forms of art, that is, films and television media, with a good book in the mix as well. Let's dive in, shall we? We're sure lots of you have watched or at least heard of that movie starring Leonardo Dicaprio, The Great Gatsby. But did you know it's actually based on a book of the same name from 1925? In the book, the titular character, J. Gatsby, is noted to be reaching out for a green light hanging at a dock that he could see from his property. The reader learns that he actually bought his house so that he could see this green light. But why? Turns out the light was hung at the end of the dock of the residence of Gatsby's former lover, Daisy, who is now married to another man. The metaphoric meaning here is the light symbolized the connection that Gatsby still has for Daisy, and that he still has a chance to win her back and be with her. Delving deeper, green is the color of money, and as such is associated with the wealth that Gatsby possesses and believes will let him win back Daisy. Unlike how green is associated with dollar bills, a simplified version of the type of wealth Gatsby possesses, gold and silver, can be seen as a form of value that lasts much longer, and the writer associates Daisy with these two items with phrases like golden girl and gleaming like silver. The meaning behind this is that while Gatsby wealth was obtained, Daisy's is inherited, and as such, that there is a difference in significance of each kind of wealth. With the wealth and class status of the kind Daisy and Tom possess unattainable to someone such as Gatsby. Even more profound, the green light can be looked at as a symbol of the American dream, as well as it ultimately being unachievable. Towards the end of the novel, there is a tragic car crash which kills the main characters, whom were not born into the privilege of the upper class, while those who were, Daisy and Tom included, survived. The writer of the novel, F. Scott Fitzgerald, directly stated in the novel that the promising future that was the green light eluded us today, but that we try yet again, harder still, tomorrow. Albeit, we do admit Fitzgerald's wordings were much more attractive than how we mentioned it here, but the point is the same. The American dream cannot be reached, and that is its most defining feature. Now, let's look at an example from a form of art that is more visual in its style of delivery to the audience. The Spanish language TV series La Casa De Papel, or perhaps more famously known by its English dubbed version made famous by the streaming site Netflix, Money Heist. Spoiler warning if you haven't seen the show. On the face of it, this show is about a group of criminals robbing a bank. Okay, honestly, that is a completely accurate description of it, but it leaves out the depth and swirling meaning that the show manages to convey to viewers. The 19th century Italian song Bella Ciao plays a significant thematic role in the show because just like the song, the show is also about rebellion. Rebellion against society, against structure, and against the establishment. One of the main characters, the professor, even incorporates the perception of the crew members as these sort of Robin Hood types into his plans. Perhaps one of the most interesting things about the show is how it used art that inspired real events to inspire art. Confused? Sorry, allow me to explain. With its heavy emphasis on being a show for the people or the regular folks like you and I, several real-world events like fan performances at football stadiums and worker protests were inspired by the show. What the show did was to incorporate these scenes into later episodes. An interesting circle of artistic expression, wouldn't you say? Let's look at another recent film, the visually spectacular Avatar by James Cameron, the most glaring metaphor in this movie, and one that James Cameron himself has outright stated is its representation of how we treat the earth, even though it's a set on an alien world. The people of this world have a deep spiritual connection with nature. They live with it, in it, and quite literally born with it. When humans came, they want to exploit its resources, which inevitably would damage the natural environment. Sound familiar? Our planet may be huge, but our actions are just as large in scale in the harm they are causing. We must act now to save our home. Interestingly, that's exactly what the inhabitants of Pandora did. Though we're not saying the violent conflict, like in the movie, is the solution to our real-world climate and planet degradation problems. Avatar is, after all, a blockbuster movie that needed some good action scenes. Another metaphor that we would say was probably intentional was how the film depicted outside forces causing problems for the present population. In the movie, humans want the resources of the planet Pandora, and in their pursuit of this, some have little care for the original inhabitants, the Na'vi people. Similar to the Europeans' entry into the Americas. Let us now look at something from a film that is an adaptation of one of the most famous literary works of modern times, The Lord of the Rings. More specifically, let's look at something said in one of the franchise's movies. In the second installment, The Lord of the Rings and the Two Towers, the wise and loyal hobbit Samwise Gamgee explains to his friend and the main protagonist, Frodo, that he finally understood the meaning of all the tales of old, where heroes would fight against the darkness, even though it would be filled with horrors and terror. He finally understood that, and we quote, that there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. In the tough times, even more present in everyone's mind through the last year, words like this may be all that keep us going. Thank you, Samwise Gamgee. On the topic of metaphors and movie lines, arguably the greatest is life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. This famous line was delivered by Tom Hanks in the now surprisingly more than 20-year-old film Forrest Gump. Does a better metaphor exist in modern art for the nature of life? Maybe, maybe not. But one thing is for sure, life really is like a box of chocolates. Random things can be thrown our way. Objects, experiences, the chance to forge or mend relationships. All we can really do is make the best of the chocolate we get. Before we sign off today, we want to make a special mention for a polarizing but definitely necessary addition to the superhero cinematic genre, Captain Marvel. The metaphor we want to mention here isn't really a metaphor at all, but more an outright declaration that was made at one point in the film. That is, women don't have anything to prove to men. Hopefully, everyone sees this sooner, and we can all make progress better. Thanks for watching, dear viewers. I hope you've enjoyed this addition to our channel. And till next time, please like, share, and subscribe. Stay safe, everyone.